Hey, everybody, and welcome to the channel. I am Dr. Angela Cudger, the founder of Legacy Holistic Health Institute, metaphysician and healer. And this channel is dedicated to the health, wellness, and spiritual healing of women over 40. Now, if you're new to the channel, thank you so much for being here. We hope that you find something useful in the content that is shared here. New videos are posted every Wednesday and Friday at 7 a.m. EST, Eastern Standard Time. And we do a series every single month. So this series is all a part of the 9 dimensions. This video in particular is about the fifth dimension. Now, if you're returning to my channel, thank you so much for all your likes, your shares, your subscribes, and for helping us grow this channel. You know I love you, and you know I appreciate the exchange of energy here with you, and I'm looking forward to meeting you in person at one of our events next year. Now, let's jump into it and talk about the fifth dimension. Now, in this series, we've already talked about the first, second, and third dimension, and we went into the fourth dimension that considers time as time with time on top of depth and height and all of those different things. Now, let's talk about the fifth dimension. Now, the fifth dimension is actually rooted in what they like to call theoretical science. That means that there's not a tremendous amount of proof, but in science, it can actually be true. The scientific piece of it can actually be true. So, when we're talking about the fifth dimension, one of the most intriguing theories that comes up to mind is the existence of higher dimensions. So, the fifth dimension, unlike the fourth dimension, actually removes time, or it does not allow things to be time bound. It states that we are able to exist in multiple realities across multiple realms. Don't worry, I'm going to help you understand that a lot better before this video is over. And so the reason this is the case is because of something that quantum physics likes to call the string theory. Now, this theory proposes that everything in the universe acts kind of like this vibrating string or made up of a bunch of tiny vibrating strings. And these strings exist in more than one dimension. Now, some versions of the string theory require at least 10 dimensions and even 11 dimensions, even though we only are familiar with the 9 dimensions. And in this series, we're only going to cover dimensions 1 through 7 because this starts to get way more scientific than anything I've ever been around or ever been a part of. Now, I love quantum physics. We actually have some quantum physics that includes fifth dimensional analysis and things inside of the Legacy Health Coach training program. And so we talk a little bit about how these dimensions actually affect people's lives. So the fifth dimension is what we like to call theoretical physics, right? It's described mathematically, and it's not a place that you can visit, but it's a construct of what could be for you. And it helps us understand the universe and what's available to us across realms a lot better. And so mathematicians use these higher dimensions to simplify really, really complex problems and really complex things. Now, if we're talking about the fifth dimension, one word comes to mind, and that's called the multiverse. And it's what makes this so fascinating. So you can think of one of the biggest ways, one of the best things that I could say about describing the fifth dimension is when you see the movie Doctor Strange, right? So if you've ever watched the Marvel movie Doctor Strange or read the comic book or saw the cartoon, you can see that he opens portals between worlds, between dimensions. It transcends time and space. That's the fifth dimension. Okay, that's the fifth dimension. And it creates what we like to call this gateway between these parallel worlds and these parallel universes. And each of them have their own set of physical laws, kind of like we have the law of gravity in this fourth dimensional universe, when really in the fifth dimension, you don't see necessarily gravity having such an effect on people, right? That's why, like, you'll see Doctor Strange float. You'll see them do things that defy gravity. It's the perfect example of the fifth dimension. So imagine for a moment what endless possibilities you can come up with when there is no time and you're not bound by any space, right? We talked a little bit about moving between timelines and having timeline therapy when it came to the fourth dimension. But imagine being able to not have to do timeline therapy at all, but being able to jump realities, being able to quantum leap realities. Quantum leaping is also another opportunity to understand the fifth dimension. So if you've ever seen the show Quantum Leap, That's exactly what it's doing. He's jumping between realities and defying space and time, right? And so it has been said, and this is what makes the fifth dimension so incredibly cool. It has been said that with every decision that we make, we split. There is a version of us that made the choice, and there is a version of us that chose the opposite. So, an example of this would be a version of you that chose to be a mother and a version of you that chose to not be a mother. Or there's a version of you that chose to be married and a version of you that chose not to be married or to remain single in your lifetime. Every single time we make a decision, every single time we make a decision, the universe splits, right? So when you think about every decision every human being has ever made over the course of history, there is an infinite number of universal realities that could ever possibly be. Well, that's the brilliance of the fifth dimension. The beautiful thing is, and I like to tell people that because higher dimensions exist, you really can never get life wrong. There's still a version of you. So even if you feel like you made the wrong choice, there's or a choice that isn't in alignment with what you feel like is your highest and best good, you can still align yourself with the opposite of that, which is what would make you feel amazing, right? And you get to do this through meditation. You get to do this through visualization. You get to live in the reality. So the metaphysician Neville Goddard and I want to say Florence Scovel Shinn also talks about this, but Neville Goddard talks a lot about living in the end, right? And so living and starting with your imagination and living in the end. One of the things that he teaches with his metaphysical concepts, and one of the things I learned in school, is that a person can imagine the opposite or another reality so detailed that they can literally leave the reality that they're in, leave the shell, their physical body, and go and be in that reality. And so it's important that when we're thinking about this, that we understand that when we're imagining this, when we're imagining our reality, and I'll walk you guys kind of through this, when we're imagining what would be our opposite reality through meditation and visualization, when we're imagining this, right? We can literally think and say, okay, um, we can literally walk through the details. But if there are certain things in our current reality that we want to take with us, our kids, our spouse, our car, our home, our job, our friends, right, our connections, we must also imagine those things in our new reality, or we'll end up being in that new reality and without them. Now, believe it or not, it's been said that this is actually how people pass on, right? They imagine a different reality. They start to imagine what would be if they were no longer here, or that thought crosses their mind. And remember, I told you guys in another video, I talked about how all of our energy is plowing in one direction. And so when we have a thought, when we have a feeling, all of our energy starts to plow in that direction. Well, just think, and it makes our reality, it brings matter into being. So just think about if someone were to think about leaving this earth or leaving this space, the soul is going to continue in another reality, right? It might be a new soul, or it might be a continuation of life lessons and things like that. Very convoluted universe, but you get to continue to live out different things as you split realities. So, what are you going to think about tonight? How are you going to live in the end? What does yours look like? Does it look like a different place to live? Are you in a different car? Do you have different friends? Do you have different connections? And the fifth dimension, and understanding the fifth dimension and visualization, allows us to actually start to come into our being with manifestation. It literally is how we do this, right? This is why you also see it, things that seem like people blew up overnight. And that's just not the case. They literally started living in the end. They must have already visualized it, understood it, and actually brought it into their being. That's the beauty of the fifth dimension. There is no space, no time that will hold us. It is just realm jumping and portal hopping. That's all it is. And that's the beauty of the fifth dimension. right? And so we'll talk a little bit about how this gets a little bit more complex during the sixth dimension. But the fifth dimension is where we start to get into the higher realms, and it transcends space and time. And we can literally have a different kind of reality and a different kind of experience. And the way that we do that is we start to imagine our own beautiful imagination. It has been said that as we go to sleep at night, this is where we have the most detachment from our current reality. And when we wake up in the morning, we reattach to that reality. So if you were to think about the thing you wanted to manifest as you drifted off to sleep, or right after you journaled at night and drifted off to sleep, or said affirmations as you drifted off to sleep, you will find that you will begin to start to manifest these things relatively quickly. You'll start getting the clues, you'll start getting the signs that these things are on their way to you. So be really, really clear about your intentions and the things you want to manifest. Listen, I hope you've gotten something amazing out of this video and you're continuing to love this series. If you feel like you want to stay a while with us, learn a little bit more with us, hit that subscribe button, kind of like this.
Be sure to hit the subscribe button and make sure that you're staying abreast of everything on our channel, and be sure to turn on your notifications so that you know when we post new videos.
Listen, I never take the role of teacher lightly. Thank you so much for being here with me. Love and light, beautiful.